right, welcome to lesson 11.4. This is very similar to yesterday's lesson that was about adding decimals to the thousandths place. This is subtracting decimals to the thousandths place. You're going to do the exact same thing as yesterday, lining up those decimals, except for you're going to be subtracting to the thousands instead of, instead of adding. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples. A certain test measures the acidity or the pH level of blood. The pH of blood is usually between 7 and 3500ths and 7 and 4500ths. The table shows the results of two tests. How much did the pH level decrease? All right, so we've got the morning test and the afternoon test, and it wants to know how much something decreased. If you're trying to find the difference between something, you know you are going to be subtracting, right? You're not adding up, you're not finding a total or a sum or all together. You're finding out what's the difference. That means you need to subtract one thing from the other. Morning was more than afternoon, so let's subtract 7 and 416 thousandths minus 7 and 358 thousandths. Let's go ahead and do that over here, remembering to line up those decimals. Decimal is here, and a decimal is going to go right here. The biggest thing with subtraction is going to be not having something like 3 minus 4 and you writing down 1, right? That's probably the most common mistake in subtraction, is you need to make sure that you are able to do it. For instance, like here, 6 minus 8. Don't put 2. 6 minus 8 you cannot do, right? So you need to, let's do this in red so you can see, you need to borrow from here. You're going to put that one over here, and this is going to become 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. 0 minus 5. You cannot take 0 and take 5 away from it. You have to borrow from this 4. Make it a 3, and that becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 you can do. 3 minus 3 is 0. 7 minus 7 is 0. So the difference is 58 thousandths. That would be your difference between morning and afternoon. Let's try a couple more examples here. Just make sure you get the hang of subtraction. It should be fairly easy since you just did the same thing with addition. Let's again scroll down all the way to where they make you line them up yourselves, because that is probably the biggest mistake that people make, is not lining it up or doing their subtraction incorrectly. All right, so how about this? 51 and 7/10 minus n, when n equals 36 and 816 thousandths. So we're going to take what n equals and we're going to actually drop it right into where that n is. So we have 51 and 7/10 minus n, so minus 36 and 816. Remember, go ahead and add those zeros there. It just keeps everything neat and lined up, and it makes for less mistakes. So let's subtract. 0 minus 6. Don't tell me that it is 6. You cannot take 6 away from 0, so you have to borrow from here. You cannot borrow from there. There's nothing there. Go to the next neighbor. We're going to borrow, and now you cannot bring that one all the way over here. It can only go to the next door neighbor and make it a 10. But now that we have 10 next door, you can borrow from there, make it a 9, and this becomes a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 1 is 8. 6 minus 8 you cannot do. Go next door, borrow 10, and bring it over here. 16 minus 8 is 8. 0 minus 6, you cannot do that. Borrow from the neighbor, bring that 10 over. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. Your answer is 14 and 884 thousandths. All right, you should not have any problem doing your subtraction to the thousandths place. You can go ahead and do that now. Line up those decimals and be careful with that subtraction, and messy math makes mistakes, so keep it neat.